Finding the distance between two entities doesn't necessarily require us to create a dimension. Sometimes just knowing the numeric value is all we need. At times like these, we can use AutoCAD's distance command. We're going to take a look at the distance command, so I'm going to come up and click my open icon. And we're going to look inside the Chapter 13 folder located inside our exercise files directory. And I'm going to go to drawing number 1. The distance command will highlight this drawing and click open. Now on my screen, I've got a portion of a parking lot, and I want to verify some of my measurements without creating full-blown dimensions. I can do that by using the distance command. To get the distance command, I'm going to come up to my tools pull down, and I'm going to come down to inquiry, and in the flyout, I'll come over and select distance. Now, finding a distance is just like creating a dimension. I'm going to pick 2 points, and instead of creating the physical dimension, AutoCAD's just going to tell me how far apart those points were. So AutoCAD's saying specify first point. Now I happen to have a running object snap set to endpoint. So I'm going to find the width of my parking stall. Let me click right here, and then I'm going to come over and click here to grab the other endpoint. And notice that my cursor, AutoCAD is telling me that's 9 units wide. Now this drawing is an example of a civil engineering drawing, so every unit equals 1 foot. So I can tell by my distance that this stall happens to be 9 feet wide. Let's find another distance. I'm going to come up again to my tools pull down. We'll come down to inquiry. We'll grab distance. I'm going to find out how wide my sidewalk is right here. Let me click the endpoint here, and I want to know the distance to the endpoint here. That is 6 feet wide. Now I am seeing my distance at my cursor because my dynamic input mode happens to be turned on. Now if you are someone who does not use the dynamic input, or the heads-up display as it's otherwise called, you can get your distance information from the command line. The only problem I have currently, though, is I cannot see all of my distance information. In order to see the entire contents of my distance information, I need to be able to see 3 rows of text in the command line. Right now I'm only seeing 2, so let's make a change. If I'd like to adjust the height of my command line, I'm going to move my cursor down on top of this horizontal line until I see the icon change, and then I'm going to click and hold and drag up, and when I release, I can make my command line a little taller. Notice now that I can see 3 rows of text, I can see my distance. Now, since I am using the dynamic input, or the heads-up display, now I'd like to show you an interesting feature that's available in the distance command if you do use the dynamic input. I am going to use the distance command to locate several distances and only launch the command 1 time. Let's try that. I'm going to come up to my tools pull down, and I'm going to come down to inquiry, and I'll select distance. Now AutoCAD's asking me to specify first point. I'm going to come over and click the endpoint here. Once again, I'm using an object snap. Now I'd like to find the width of this stall, but instead of clicking this other endpoint, I'm just going to hover over it. And when I do, watch the cursor. It's going to go by quick. If I hover, notice it said 9. So you have to have a fast eye for this method. But I can also get the distance to this point, happens to be 18. This point happens to be 27 feet away. If I wanted to find out what the depth of the stall was, I could come up and hover up here. It's 18. Okay, so if we use the heads-up display or the dynamic input with our distance command, and we have very fast eye coordination, we can get multiple distances while only launching the command 1 time. I'm going to hit my escape key to clear the command. So if your desire is to simply verify the geometry in your drawing, you can use AutoCAD's distance command and avoid the hassle of producing unnecessary dimensions.